Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my very own t-shirt. Yes, it is making fun of Gundam, Taco Bell, the most interesting man in the world, and it is available in 16 different colors. So if you're a Gundam fan, go buy it. Apparently, Amuro Ray yesterday was trending on Twitter, so this is the perfect opportunity to go buy my t-shirt, as well as if you're a comic book fan, you could use code POPANIMECOMICS to get 10% off your entire order on BCW Supplies. They have bags, boards, long boxes, and anything else to store your collectibles. They protect cards, so if you're into wrestling cards, you can protect your items there too. And well, inflation sucks, so save yourself some money. But I'm not going to bore everybody with the rest of my sponsors because I have with me professional wrestler AJ Alexander on. So welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited because you followed me on Twitter and I just shot you a message and I said, hey, why not, right? Um, but and obviously you got a bunch of matches in 5 years, and
Yes.
I don't want to say you're new to the game, but you're on the newer side.
Yes, very, very newer side.
Yes. So I'm very curious how you got into wrestling because you should not be where you are and you're unbelievably talented.
Thank you. So how I ended up getting started, when I first started, I knew of WWE and I knew of a local indie promotion that was like 5 minutes from my house. All other wrestling was non-existent to me. I didn't know it existed. And I ended up asking the local indie promoter, hey, is there any way I could get into this? And they're like, yeah, kid, we'll see you Sunday. Okay. I showed up Sunday, did a little training, took 3 months between my first training session and my second training session, and then another 6 months between my second and third training session. Thought to myself, I will never become a professional wrestler this way. Talked to one of the other students there. He's like, yeah, man, I've been training for 5 years. Oh, not me. I'm not doing that. So I did a little research, found out there was a school in Pittsburgh. The head trainer there trained Corey Graves and had a hand in training Kurt Angle. So I was like, well, that sounds like a good enough school for me. Took me 3 months. I got my first show and then kind of just took off from there, man.
So let's even talk a little bit about that because, obviously you get exposed to something and you want to do this and then you catch the bug. But then what was that like coming into this school? Because I think it was Quinn Magnum.
Yes, Quinn. Oh, love Quinn. Me and Quinn still talk every so often, but I mean, coming in, it was very intimidating, especially him being like 6'4", 280, and he's built like a brick house. So it was very intimidating. His voice is like super deep. And actually, when I got there, I met all the students, and he came a little late. So I walked up to each student. Hey, are you Quinn? Hey, are you Quinn? Nobody was ever Quinn. I just kept getting descriptions of Quinn. Quinn finally walked in, and he's like, "Yeah, good luck, kid."
So even to talk about this, because this is one of the things that I think, and I think it's changed slightly in wrestling, but I know that back, I guess, in the old day, for lack of a better word, different schools were run differently, and I guess they weren't run as professional as they are now, I feel. And not all schools are run professional either, but what was this like knowing that Quinn had a good reputation? And obviously, Corey Graves went through it, and a variety of other people went through it. And Quinn, I think, is 25 years in the business as well. And so, what was that like for you, knowing, hey, this is a reputable school, and I'm going to be taught well here?
It made me feel, one, safe, and two, that I was in very good hands moving forward. Like I felt like I was setting myself in a position to succeed rather than a position to fail, like some other people around like the Pittsburgh area are doing.
Yeah, and even going further into this, because I know that Quinn was also involved in a lot of the local promotion and promotional side of it as well. And so, what was this like? Because obviously, there is the mentality of wrestling that I think is a big part of training. Is also making sure that if you're going to suplex somebody, that, or being suplexed, remaining safe, or even how to bounce off the rings and the rope is a skill. And then there's also the psychology and the business side of it, I feel. And
Mm-hmm.
so what was this like really breaking it down? Because I feel at this stage, and obviously, entering the COVID era, people need to be a lot more wary of the business side, I feel, of wrestling.
Yeah. My biggest problem with the wrestling was I didn't understand the term less is more until I got older. So when I was younger, I was this hot, fiery baby face. I would do flips. I would do things that people really shouldn't do at my size. Because I myself am 6'1", 280. So like, why am I doing a shooting star press? I don't need to. It's impressive, sure, but why? So then when I really started figuring out wrestling within this past year, starting last like October-ish, I really broke down like the aspects of wrestling and thought to myself, I'm going to become the best in-ring professional wrestler I can be. And then I'll work on the other aspects. So I like to think that I'm pretty decent when it comes to in-ring. Obviously, my promo still needs work. My character work still needs work. The business and social media drives professional wrestling. And I did not know that until very, very recently. Twitter is the end all be all with wrestling.
Yeah, even to go further into this, because, obviously I come from the world of comic books, and sometimes you don't need to throw everything in the kitchen sink into a Batman book. You
Mm-hmm.
could have it that you don't need Batman on every panel per se. You could have a lot of shadows. Batman the animated series is a really good example
Yeah.
of that, where it's a lot of shadows. And I feel that, if you're 6'1" or you're 6'6", you don't need to be doing a backflip per se, because you're sort of a powerhouse. It goes back to Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
It's cool when Roman Reigns does a shooting star press, and I think he can do one technically, but he doesn't need to do it. And so what was this like? Because I think that's something that wrestlers really do struggle with, I think. And
Yeah.
we've seen it where people have rebranded themselves. I'll throw a great name, and hopefully it's not going to get you or me in trouble, but Becky Lynch, I think, is a really good example where
Love Becky.
she's rebranded herself very, very well. And Bailey's another one
Mm-hmm.
where the dropping the hugging, taking the chair, and becoming that, I don't want to say villain per se, but almost an anti-hero in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the antagonist almost. Yeah, those are two really good examples. Jericho is another good example. He reinvents himself like the wheel every 2 or 3 years. It's just when you find what works for you, it is a lot of the stress and the pressure comes off. Like when you really find what works for you, that pressure is completely off, and you can go out there and just do your thing and flow.
Yeah, because isn't that the thing? Is that like, and also look, I mean, I've seen it. I've been watching wrestling for 15 years, and a character is not working, and then they get taken off with that character, and then they come back with something else, and then they're doing an amazing job. And it goes, I think, also where it's also social media as well. I feel that fits into that, where it's also, what is your personality too? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, I think Jericho has said, I think it was Chris Jericho said that the best wrestling personalities are you turned up to an 11.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean that's preached. Honestly, everyone says that.
but because it's so interesting, and even the fact that you figured that out, because I think a lot of wrestlers haven't figured that out, and then they figured out year 10 in the biz versus
Yeah.
year 5. And so, what is this like now that you're kind of, I guess, mentally deconstructing it? Because I think that's something that has made you a better wrestler in a lot of ways.
So as I'm still reconstructing everything from my in-ring style to the character to the promos and really delivering everything, I've had just during the reconstruction process of myself, I've been not necessarily exploding on the indies, but like I've been very much so like getting a good buzz on my name because I'm out of the Pittsburgh area. I live in Ohio, but Pittsburgh was the closest school. So like just being a small town Ohio kid, being able to wrestle in Chicago, not paying anything, wrestling in New York City, not paying anything, like just being able to branch out and get out there. Like I consider AAW Pro in Chicago one of the top 5 indies in the US, and I just got an opportunity to join their main roster. So like as I'm going through the reconstruction phase of myself and my own mind, people are starting to take notice and giving me opportunities that, say for instance, if I didn't go through this reconstruction process, that I would have never received.
So to even dive further into that, because obviously, you know, and we'll use Pittsburgh as a great example. Geographically, Pittsburgh is halfway to Chicago. It's halfway to New York.
Yeah.
My understanding, where Pittsburgh is in many ways a very, very hot wrestling bed, for lack of a better word.
Pittsburgh wrestling is on fire right now.
And it's also just massively centralized. I mean, I think Rex or Keller's out of Pittsburgh. I know Savage Gentleman and Lady Frost are out of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I think Solo Darling might be in Philly, or she might even now be in Pittsburgh too. I'm not sure. But I could be wrong on that. So nobody quote me on that one. I know MV Young is out of Pittsburgh. I'm trying to think of who else is out of Pittsburgh. I think Facade and Danny Moe are out of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And so, I know the whole one.
The Rev Ron Hunt is Shane Taylor Promotions vice president. He's out of the Pittsburgh area too. He's like my mentor. He's the one who really like. So okay, let's backtrack. So 2020, when COVID first hit, right? I thought to myself, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done with wrestling. I'm walking away. I said retiring. Everyone said you haven't done anything, so you're just quitting. I said, okay, that's fair. So in my defense, I was ready to quit wrestling. And I was like, you know what? Let me have one more match with the Rev Ron Hunt. I said, let me just have this one match to talk to Quinn. I said, let me get this one match and I'm done. I had that one match. It was like 6 minutes or something in like a blazing hot warehouse. And I had so much fun during that match that it convinced me to stay. So, and it's kind of embarrassing now, but like I'm in much better shape now than I was. But when COVID hit, obviously everyone, if you didn't like take it serious, you put on a lot of weight. So from March to June, between those matches, I sat on the couch, ate chips, drank Sprite. I didn't care about anything. And now, so Rev really took me under his wing, and he's been my guiding factor. And I've like had some other people like O'Shea Edwards has jumped in and helped me a good bit. Quinn will message me every so often. Brandon Kay, Dean Radford. And there's a lot of people I'm going to forget. Savage Gentleman, you mentioned him. Lady Frost. Joe Dombrowski, he's a commentator from MLW. All these guys have all had a hand in like molding me and helping me become who I am today. Lee Moriarty helps out a lot too. Recent Ring of Honor World Champion Challenger.
Yeah. And even to talk about this, because obviously, I mean, you mentioned also social media and how social media is a big driver. And we talk about the business of wrestling. And in particular with COVID, I feel that has sort of shifted as well, where I felt that Twitter, 3-4 years ago wasn't as influential. And I look at all of this differently, where I look at it saying, okay, what wrestlers are getting really, really great attention on Twitter. Warhorse is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Where Warhorse was slaying dragons on Twitter. And then you look at people like Alicia Tout, I think is her name, or Alicia Tout. Now she's now starting to get some attention on Twitter, and Erica Lee is another one who does very well on Twitter, and that obviously drives bookings. Bookings drive you getting more exposure. It drives merch sales. And so, what is this like? And I feel like in the last, probably year and a half, Twitter has become way more influential than anything else. And so what is that like? Because as you're going through this reconstruction stage, what is that like saying, okay, cool, I'm now finding my character and people are noticing and then figuring out, okay, how do I play this out on Twitter? How do I get clever on Twitter? And how do you kind of figure all that out and even where that's going? Because it is really tricky and it's tricky for everybody in the creative space right now.
So I was talking to most people kind of know her as Sienna. Allison Kay is what she goes by now. She was the one who told me. I always ask a very vague question whenever I meet people that I respect or people I know or anyone in the wrestling business who I might think I can learn something from. I'll always ask the vague question: how do you think a young guy in the business can make it? Whatever their answer is, it's whatever it is. But I leave it very vague because everyone always has a different answer. Allison Kay's answer was no matter how over the top you think it is, push your character on social media. Never really break character. So when she told me that, and the character I'm kind of going for is like that final boss character. So it's like a Kazuchika Okada. It's like a Utami Hayashita, like one of them, like top dogs over in Japan. So like to get my Twitter over to a point, I go and see like what they're tweeting, how they deliver their tweets, and then once I realize like, oh, okay, this is the formula, this is like their style of delivering their tweets. I go ahead and form my own tweets based off their formula, but like with my own thought about whatever I need to get over at that specific time.
Yeah, no, this is interesting because one of the things is that, and I'm very honest, and this is just my thoughts, and again, I'm slightly jaded. Most people, and this has become from the comic world, is that most people in comics do not know how to utilize social media correctly. They understand how to push art, but they also don't understand how to make it an experience, how to interact with fans, how to get attention. And I'm very honest. I'm really into bad girl art, and I know certain covers are going to get attention. And then if I have something important to say, if I put it before or after the bad girl art thing, it's going to have a different effect. And so if I put somebody's interview right before a piece of bad girl art, it's going to get attention. If I put it right after, it's going to get attention too. And so, and also understanding when to tweet something out and how to tweet something out. And also, where my audience is at. And so I just find the entire thing with social media to be very interesting. And even how to build a promo off of social media too. Because there's been some serious people who have done that.
Yeah, I remember when Lio Rush, before he got signed by WWE, before he did his crazy CZW stuff, I remember he put out a promo calling out ACH. And I remember just watching this promo and getting chills. And like there was no production company. It was literally just him in an alley with his phone. And he cut the promo, uploaded it himself. And that's how Lio Rush ended up blowing up and taking off. But I know exactly what you mean with the placement. So Savage Gentleman is the one who really helped me with that. I'm a big Joshi wrestling fan, like the Japanese women. I love the Japanese women wrestling. It's so good and so unique every single time. But in my personal opinion, Julia is the best women's wrestler in the world. So every so often I would tweet something about Stardom and about what they're doing and what Julia did. And like it would get no likes. And then something else I would tweet about myself would get like 3 or something. And at the time, I only had like 72 followers or something. So little accounts, whatever. And Savage Gentleman broke it down. He's like, you see how like nobody's interacting with these tweets, like your Joshi tweets, but everyone's reacting with your tweets? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's a problem. You got to fix that. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you can tweet things about it, but make it about yourself too. And like he was the one who really broke down like how to post with me.
Because I think it's something that obviously on social media I'm not very good at it, but at the same time, at this point, I'm changing up my entire game as well and what I'm doing. And I think though that when it's also understanding that when you're running it like a business, because I think that's what people forget is a wrestler and your character. It's not a personal account at that point. You know, it's very much a business. It has an intention of selling merch. I have a Facebook page that's purpose is to sell my eBay store. That operates differently where all the collectibles are there. It's tagged a certain way. It's pushed out a certain way. When new merch comes in, it's an announcement. And so that page operates very differently. And if my opinion on something is on that page, it's an opinion to sell a book. So I might say, hey, I think this is going to go for more money in the next 5 months. That purpose is because I have 5 books that I have to move. And I think that's something that, you know, people need to actually understand in the wrestling world. And I think it's just something that you either figure out how to do it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's been some relatively big names who go without social media. Timothy Thatcher comes to mind immediately. He has no social media at all. He was a standout on NXT, and then he left there when his contract expired, and now he's in Pro Wrestling Noah. I think he's one of the tag champs over there. So, like, you don't necessarily need it, but you better be phenomenal at everything else.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I also think that some people just say, look, you know, because also my whole thing on social media is that it's very helpful, but it can create a lot of problems too.
Oh, yeah.
Where and you've seen it and I've seen it, and not to get too controversial, but somebody makes a bad joke or somebody makes a comment to a fan and that thing blows up and it doesn't end well. And not even somebody calls a fan an asshole on, you know, Twitter, but they don't understand that that fan was in character and then somehow the character exchange broke down and then it becomes a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, there was the local promotion I ended up training with when I first started. Their owner got canceled for some things he put on Facebook. So, like, I dodged the bullet getting out of there. But, yeah, social media is very important, but at the same time, very, very risky. And you have to watch everything you say, triple and double check your tweets and post and everything.
And then also, I mean, wasn't there just a whole issue where somebody was impersonating somebody else and it wasn't even there, like Twitter? And I think it was like a WWE legend. And
I think it was Liv Morgan. I think somebody was pretending to be Liv and like taking people's money for like house payments or something. And Liv had to tweet out that it wasn't her.
Because it happens all the time, but then again, it also happens with like these top names, and it becomes a bigger issue. So, but I digress with there. But I do want to dive into some of your matches because you got some serious, crazy matches that you've done, and Fight Society is one of those places that's wild with your career.
Oh gosh, I spent a majority of my career there, and then that whole company folded. So,
well, unfortunately. But some of the matches were amazing. Your matches with Chris Helmsley were great. And then so what was that like? Because I think like you've spent I don't know how much, but of your career wrestling him, but you've had at least like 20 matches at least.
I know that one year we wrestled each other 6 or 7 times. And, like, once in a great while, we would, like, sprinkle in a Patrick Hayes here or a Dak Draper there. But, like, me and him were always wrestling each other. And he ended up leaving wrestling after Fight Society folded. And I just recently ran into him again up at the Rise company, the Rise Stronghold Academy. He's back up there training to make a return. And I just recently ran into him up there, and we got to sit down and, like, rewatch the matches and talk about it and have a good time and just reminisce. Still don't like him, but it's still fun to sit down and reminisce sometimes.
So obviously, and you know, Dak Draper, that guy is built for wrestling.
Love Dak.
He's great. I loved him when he came into Beyond and a few other places. I just love his attitude, and I mean that guy is just unbelievably good. Yeah. And so what was that like? Because, you know, he's one of the ones that I don't know how long he was in wrestling when you two were sprinkled in, or he was thrown into the mix a little bit. But I think he was also relatively new as well.
I think he was relatively new, but he was doing the ROH dojo stuff at the time. Because I remember the story was like Fight Society versus the Ring of Honor dojo. And we ran that story. But yeah, working with Dak, especially that young in my career, because I was only 6 or 7 months in at that point, being with him that early helped me a lot. And then he had already been through the NXT system where he got to sit underneath Dusty Rhodes and learn his stuff. He got to sit with Chris Hero and learn under Chris Hero, under Triple H, Shawn. Like, he got to learn under all them guys. And then they ended up cutting him. And he went to Ring of Honor after that. Another fun story about meeting up with someone years later. Me and Dak, so he kind of took me under his wing for a couple months. And then, like, there was no, like, heat, no bad blood. But, like, we just kind of went our separate ways. We just stopped talking. And then the Rev Ron Hunt asked me to go to a Ring of Honor show one time. And this is when Dak was doing his stuff with Dalton Castle. And I showed up and I'm shaking everyone's hands, trying to figure out like what I'm doing as like ring crew and whatever. And I turn around and I saw Dak, and Dak sees me. And he's like, AJ? I'm like, Dak? He's like, bro, it's been so long. And like, he was the first one that made me feel so welcomed in an environment that I was so intimidated in.
So what is this like? Because obviously wrestling is a very interesting business where people hate each other sometimes, and they work great in the ring together, but they hate each other. Mm-hmm. And then you have people like Triple H and Shawn Michaels who are best friends for life, and they don't hate each other, and they work unbelievably well against each other and with each other. And and then you don't see somebody for 5 years for whatever reason. Maybe they decided to go out to the West Coast. You want to be on the East Coast, or your paths never cross because there's a lot of promotions in the U.S. and in the world technically at this point. And then you come and see somebody and everything's great again, or somebody you used to hate, because that's how wrestling used to be, right? Is that you tell the promoter to go to hell, and then you go do another promotion. Then 6 months later, the promoter be like, I need somebody who has your standing in my thing. And then you're like, well, I hate this other guy. Let me come back, right?
Yeah.
So what is that like for you? Because obviously you're everywhere. You're in Chicago. You're in New York.
So I just recently started expanding out there. But I'm actually running into a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. So Christy Janes, I met her like 4 or 5 years ago in Pittsburgh. And like, it wasn't until this past like March, I think, I saw her up in Chicago, and immediately we recognized each other, and we were able to embrace and just reminisce about the times that we shared in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it's always, for a lack of a better term, it's always like nice running into people you've worked with in the past, or just even if you just sit down and have a conversation with them at some point. It's always nice running into them again sometime down the road.
Do you also feel, though, that because Pittsburgh is a hotbed, much like, Boston and Massachusetts, to some degree is a hotbed. Obviously, New York City is a hotbed for wrestling just because of the amount of people that are in those areas. And then there's obviously a few other places. The tri-state area is a huge hotbed for wrestling. And I'm in Connecticut, so I'm somewhat in the tri-state area. And then all those people have now sort of, I guess, exploded out in a lot of ways too. Do you feel that part of why you're running into so many people is because you were basically doing a lot of matches in Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh is pretty much geographically located, and it's also well connected?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that's part of it, or do you just think that for whatever reason you're part of a class that just had a lot of generational talent, or not generational talent, but a lot of talent that then got picked up? And
I don't know if it's necessarily my quote unquote class has all that talent, because most of the people I'm running into have either been in the business longer than me or older than me. Just like nothing really lines up. But like you said, with Pittsburgh being a hot spot and me spending the first 3 or 4 years of my career in Pittsburgh and only doing like Pittsburgh and like some random indie here and some random indie here. Like at one point or another, these people will trickle into the Pittsburgh area. I'll be able to talk with them. I'll do something with them work-wise. Something will happen where we cross paths, and then they are on to their next city, and I'm still in Pittsburgh. Well, with me now getting out and being around bigger promotions, I'm starting to rerun into some of these people that I met years ago just because I'm starting to expand now.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and even going into that, I mean, obviously you've done a lot in Pittsburgh, and I do want to touch upon that, and in particular the Jesus Club, because I think that's kind of I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's hilarious in a lot of ways. I think it's crazy with Zeke Mercer, and then obviously other people have come in and out of that entire, I guess, faction for lack of a better word, and then dealing with Project 13. And all those matches, and you had some crazy matches too. You had a match with Rapido Vice, and they used to be in DC, and I used to see them like almost every other week wrestling in the DMV area, up in Nova, up in Primetime. There was a few other places, so like I'm very familiar with them. And so, what was this like? Really forming, this, and then obviously I think Curtis Ray Gotti was involved at some point with all this, so and then it became like the Apex.
Yep. We just made that transition at the start of the year. So when it started before I was even in wrestling, the Rev Ron Hunt and Jordan Styles did their version of the Jesus Club. That's how it started, and then they ended up breaking up and feuding for a minute at the same time that I was getting into wrestling. So when I got into wrestling, me and Rev ended up crossing paths maybe a year into my career. And we immediately clicked. We became good friends. And he was like, hey, you want to restart this group with me? And let's actually make this a real faction. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Because I'm a strong believer in God. I'm a follower of Christ, all this stuff. And obviously the Rev Ron Hunt, he's a real life reverend. So like it just worked out. And then we ended up getting Jordan Styles back in on it. We had Zeke Mercer, and then some things went down. So he got out of the group. And then we added Curtis Ray Gotti, who's actually my older brother. And then we added Josh Kavad very last minute. We added him at the fun story. So it was just us four for like a year and a half. And then Josh Kavad was always trying to get in our group. And like, we weren't looking for anyone at the time. And then we get to the point where we're going through an identity crisis, to say, I guess. Our biggest problem was the Jesus Club, even the shirt down to the name, everything was a ripoff of the Bullet Club. So ideally, we were like, okay, if we're going to take this faction to the next level, we have to move away from it, which is why we ended up going with the Apex, because Christ sits at the apex of our lives. So then we're going through that transition, and then we started looking for another person because we needed another person for something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I reached out to Josh Kavad, who's also another follower of Christ. And we ended up asking him to join. He's like, yeah, man, I've always wanted to be part of the Jesus Club and all this other stuff. And hate to break it to you, bud, but we're only the Jesus Club for one more month. And like he was like half heartbroken, but like he was excited to be part of the group, but like half heartbroken because he wasn't going to be part of the Jesus Club.
So there's so much to talk about with this, because obviously in wrestling, I think a lot of things start off copying the Bullet Club and copying the NWO. I feel it has been, or copying some version of the Four Horsemen, because those are the three main groups in wrestling, I feel.
Yeah,
and maybe DX is a number 4, essentially.
That's fair.
And I mean, look, everybody has ripped off some version of a Bullet Club. I have a friend who does the Cat Club, and he's a vet nurse, and it's hilarious. And I told him, I said, if you want me to pay and buy a piece of that copyright, I'm in. Like, because
Yeah.
it's money in the bank.
Yeah.
Just forget wrestling. Anybody who has a cat is gonna buy it. Is all I'm gonna say.
Oh, 100%.
I would have made so much money on it. I don't know if he did it or not, but if he did it, good on him, and I hope he's making his millions on it. But he's a good friend of mine, so it's all right. But what is this like? Because obviously you're brand new and you're now in the Jesus Club that became the Apex, and you're brand new. And I would imagine as a young wrestler and a new wrestler, it's kind of nice to have two or three other people around you to, I don't want to say cover you, but give you guidance and also give you the ability to grow into becoming a more seasoned wrestler. And I think it's something that is, I would imagine, is an advantage.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Because then we even run into some of the problems where, like Curtis Ray Gotti went down with some neck issues where he couldn't like feel his fingers and stuff. So like we were able to, we had a tag booking coming up, and we were like, well, Curtis can't compete, but here's Josh not doing anything. Let's throw Josh in there, and like it works out because we're a brotherhood. And then, like you said, being able to sit under guidance and like have that safe haven. The Rev Ron Hunt, man, he is like the mentor for the group. Even though he's the leader, he's still like the mentor. He's the one who keeps us all in check. When we everyone has mental breakdowns every so often. Everyone in the world does. If you think you're too tough for a mental breakdown, shut up. No, you're not. Yeah, the Rev will keep us all in check, and then in turn, something goes down with him, we all have his back. Like it,
Because even to touch on that, and sorry to interrupt, wrestling is a very, very brutal job, for lack of a better word.
That fun story. I actually just shattered my elbow yesterday in training.
Oh, I meant on a mental level, but we could go the physical level.
Yeah, physically, yeah, but mentally, it wears on you too. But yeah,
I thought the physical thing was a given. My bad, everybody. Yeah, no, wrestling, guys, it's totally like ballet, right?
Yeah, it's fake, 100% fake.
Just ask CM Punk's favorite promo with Triple H. He's like, we have a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell. This isn't ballet, guys. Like,
right.
But obviously wrestling is very, very physical. People have had broken necks. You know, John Cena's had, I think, 4 neck surgeries. This is not, that's not because he fell and slipped in his house. You know, it's because when you're doing moves and stuff, things go wrong. And you know what is, even if you're in with somebody like a Randy Orton or an Edge, things can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, something happened with Rey Mysterio down in Mexico, and it wasn't Rey's fault.
Yeah, that was a freak accident.
But the point is that it's that. But then also, you were saying about mental breakdowns. I think people forget that you're traveling a lot. Mm-hmm. You might have a show, but it might be 4 or 5 hours away, and then you got to get back, and it's exhausting. And I don't know too much about your personal life, but I don't know if you have a day job, because if you have a day job and you are an independent wrestler, and a lot of wrestlers are that way, where if you got a show at 8 at night, you might not get back to your house till 3 in the morning, and then you got to be at work at 9. Mm-hmm. It's not, and that can be mentally taxing, can be mentally exhausting. Not to mention that shit goes wrong sometimes at shows. Things happen, promotions, drama happens at promotions. So I think that, it's something that when you do and you are in a faction, you have somebody that can calm you down or say, hey, it's not as bad as you think, or can talk some sense into you a little bit. Mm-hmm. It is helpful in a lot of ways, whether they're there in person or even just a phone call away.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where we're at, where it's like, when I first got into wrestling, I thought to myself, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm not going to make any friends. I'm going to retire at 35. I was a very young and dumb child. I was 18. I don't know why I thought any of that. But like right now, man, like, yeah, I have some friends in the wrestling business, but like to sit down and say that I have legit brothers that I can go to about anything at this point. It's just such a weight off my shoulders because I'm not carrying all that by myself anymore. I can, like you said about the traveling, this past weekend, I hit Hamilton, Ohio, which was a 4-hour drive from my house. And then I shot out to Newark, New Jersey, which was a 10-hour trip there. And then I shot from Newark to Indianapolis, which was another 11-hour trip. And then I drove 8 hours back home. So like that was all just one weekend traveling by myself. And at this point in my life, I'm in such a good place mentally that I can just throw on some music and I'll vibe out the entire drive. I will forget that I'm even driving at some points. And then I'll look up and be like, man, it's been 4 hours already. What have I been doing? It's so great. And then that brotherhood, man, it takes such a weight off your shoulders because different things can happen. You can fall into a depression about anything, but just being able to reach out and call somebody that you know you can trust and they're not going to make fun of you and they're actually going to help you through it. It's such a beautiful thing to have.
Also, I would imagine, and I hate to talk negatively about wrestling per se, but
everything's negative about wrestling.
What?
Everything's negative about wrestling.
No. There are some shady promoters out there. Still.
Very. Oh gosh, very.
And also, it's kind of like if you have a bunch of people who have your back, or if you're there with your tag partner, and I'm going to say it. I mean, anybody can get screwed any which way because things happen. But if all four of you are there, it's going to be a lot harder to completely screw you when there's even another person there, let alone 4 people there.
Right.
Especially if you're in I don't want to say a home promotion is a good way to put it, And so that's, I also think something that people may or may not realize is that, obviously when you're in a faction, you have leverage in certain ways.
Yeah.
And then even going further into this, I mean, what is it like to rebrand? Because you're at the stage now where you're sort of, I guess, distancing yourself from, I guess, the traditional, copying the Bullet Club to now forming your own path and saying, hey, we're different from the quote unquote, club that or the faction that And so what is that like for you? Because that's kind of a creative process, I would imagine.
So necessarily we didn't change anything. The only thing that changed was the name. And the name, the Jesus Club, was so hard because when we first started the Jesus Club, let's backtrack a little bit too. When we first started the Jesus Club, we were heels. We were major douchebags. We were the worst. We were the worst people you can imagine. And then
were you Judas?
Not even. It was people don't like when you tell them how to live their life. So if you're quoting Bible verses in your promos, people tend to hate that. Especially if you get in like a little kid's face and you tell them like you better repent and they hate it, man. But we were like big douchebaggy heels, and then just over time, nobody ever wanted to turn us face because we were over as heels. And then just over time, we just organically became one of the most over like babyface factions in Pittsburgh. And like we never changed anything, which blew my mind. And then, like I said, when we became the uber baby faces, still doing all the heel stuff, it was super weird because everyone got attached to that Jesus Club name. Everyone loved the Jesus Club. And then we switched to the Apex, and we'll go to shows, and we're still like the douchebaggy heels, and our music hits, and we get Jesus Club, Jesus Club. It's not us. Quit saying that. You're gonna get us copyright, and we have to pay that because you want to act up. So we kind of use it as leverage as heels, but like just trying to get past the Jesus Club name and form the brand the Apex was very, very tough. But I think we're good now after 8 months.
Do you feel that, though, there gets to a point where you need to almost rebrand, per se, and keep things fresh? Because even just a name change to some degree, it allows, I don't want to call it a reset, but it almost allows you to sort of reset and then go back to being a heel or go to the next level or make like a pivotal right turn or left. Because it happens in comic books where they'll do 50 issues and then they'll go back to an issue one, change the origin, or they'll turn Batman from being in black to making him wear a blue suit now. But you can't just do that on issue 51 because there's like, what the hell just happened? But if you have it brand new and it's, Batman Volume 5, Issue 1, you could have him wear a blue suit and not a black suit. You could have him wear a red suit. Or you could have him be 6 years older, but you don't need to tell the time skip. And so you feel like it's something like that as well that was also needed to say, hey, look, we have to evolve the careers of us now.
Yeah, kind of. So a fun thing, I know everyone is like, I know the wrestling community and the world period is like torn about this Vince McMahon retirement thing. Because like half the people hate him. I mean, like some people hate him, some people love him. I love him for what he did for my childhood. What he did recently was like, Matt, you're a douchebag. Like, why would you do that? But like, I don't care. I personally don't care. Vince, where was I going with that? Vince, he stated at one point to WWE Talent that every year on January 1st, something should change in your character. Even if it's the slightest little thing, you need to change one thing every year just to keep that character fresh. So, yeah, to an extent, that's almost what we did with the Apex was we changed one thing as simple as the name. And now we have this whole brand new slate to fill 2022 with.
Yeah, because it's interesting because obviously, I've seen a bunch of stuff and I haven't seen everything that you've done. I've seen a lot of stuff on YouTube. And it's interesting because I saw stuff from 3 years ago and I've seen stuff from legitly 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I could see just in you personally, the skill level has evolved. And just, also the ring confidence has evolved. And also, this faction now, I feel can evolve where you're now not a bunch of newbies in the ring and you can go and take it into a different realm. And also, times have changed. And I think that that's the other thing, too, that is very important to understand is that, 3 years ago in 2019, the world was in a different place.
Yeah.
And now, the world is in a much, much more interesting place. I think it is. And I think that, there's been a lot of, evolution that has occurred with people in the last, I think, 2 to 3 years. Partially due to COVID, partially because a lot of people have woken up to a lot of different things. I also think that, I don't know what generation I'm in, but Generation Z is very different than generation. I don't know what comes before Z. Wow, I'm not good at my ass.
You got the millennials and you have Gen Y.
Yeah. So Gen Z is saving more money than the previous generations.
I'm horrible with my money. I'm a millennial. I suck with my money. I'm horrible.
I mean, I'm 29. So what am I?
Millennial.
I'm very good with my money. I mean, I'm 29 and I'm like excellent with my money. It's terrible. but I was born in 93. So
I was born in 98.
So I don't know. I'm like right on the cusp, I feel. But then again, who knows? Yeah. I'm stupid as fuck. There's no question about it. I'm good at about 5 things, and then I always give myself a pep talk. I need like a reverend. Like
I know a guy.
Yeah, right. Like, or I need an O'Shea Edwards. That's what I need.
He'll give you a physical talking. Rev will give you a mental talking.
Yeah, right. I need both of those. I need O'Shea to whip me into shape, and I say that because he'll run me through the ringers. He'll make me drop 50 pounds.
Yeah, O'Shea's beating me up, but hey, he's going to beat me up physically August 12th in Jeffersonville,
we're gonna get to
Indiana.
that. We're gonna get to that. I promise.
Yeah, that's a dream match for me.
He's great. He's great. But we're gonna get to that. But I do want to talk about what sort of got you there, because I think Route 33 has gotten you into somewhat shape.
I love everything that has to do with Route 33. Love that promotion top to bottom, from the ownership to the booking to the talent to the locker room to the atmosphere.
Let me ask you a question before we dive into it, because you're the champ there, I think.
Yes.
That's when I checked.
Reigning.
What?
Reigning
champ. Reigning and defending.
That's right.
Yeah, you could be my tribal chief anytime.
I am Samoan.
So many jokes. We'll talk about that too, because that's happening in 2 days. But what makes a good promotion in your opinion? Because obviously, and I'll preface this, and hopefully we're not going to get into trouble. I went through Nova in DC, and I went through Primetime, and both of those are defunct. I thought Primetime was ran really well until they had an issue. Nova was a disaster, from what I heard, and a lot of stuff that was not good at Nova, and we don't have to beat them up. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me. I had a very interesting discussion with Bryce Remsenberg about Nova, and he gave me a really good piece of advice privately, because he was teaching a seminar, and I said, hey, I was concerned about how my reputation was going to come out, me as a sponsor for Nova. He's like, don't worry about it. Nothing bad's going to come out of it because you didn't do anything. I don't think Bryce is going to mind me saying that. But again, what do you feel makes a good promotion, both on, I guess, how it's run, booking talent, and even fan interaction?
So I feel like what can make a very good company is communication. You'll get a lot of companies where there's a lot of times where I show up to shows and it's like an hour before doors are open, like an hour before bell time, and I still don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I'm wrestling. I don't know if I'm just doing a promo. I don't know if I'm even booked on the card. I don't know. But with Jess in Route 33, she knows what I'm doing before the show is completed. So like last month was July 9th, I think we ran. Before that show was over, she knew what I was doing in August already. And the way she makes like Google Doc things, it's like a whole format. She is unbelievably organized. But like it was so great because everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows what Jess wants out of the match. Everyone knows how long they're going. I'm gonna blur the lines because kayfabe, brother. Everyone knows who's winning. Everyone knows who's the ref. Like your time cues. Everyone knows everything going into Jess's show. And then on top of that, Jess will go out of her way to make sure we have a good house, a good audience. And family friendly is hit or miss. If you want to cater to kids, cool. If you don't, cool. I don't care either way. I'm confident in my ability to get over with kids. I'm confident in my ability to get over with adults. So I personally don't care. But yeah, just organization, communication. Like me and Jess were talking today about what we needed to do in August to set up September.
Did you feel that when you know where you're going in a direction, that you could say, okay, I need to know that I need to maybe have more of a cocky attitude in this match. If you know that your character and you as a champion are now going on a long title defense for the next 6 months, and that you have to build up the belt essentially, so that whoever takes it away from you, which they never will, I'll add that. But because I think it matters that if somebody knows they're going to win the belt and then 3 minutes later somebody's going to cash in on them, they could be like, this is the happiest day of my life, and then they get crushed too. and they could display that too, and they could sell that unbelievably. Or, if O'Shea had a match with Brex Keller and O'Shea cheated to win it, and it was great. It was great. And knowing that ahead and knowing that there's going to be a third match coming between those two, it is so important, because then if you know that as a character, you can,
yes. And that's what a lot of, I don't want to say that they don't understand, but like it's a small detail with wrestlers, because if we know what we're doing, we can then promote your show over and over again, because now we can cut promos on who we're wrestling. We know what our emotion's supposed to be. We can quote tweet your show and put so-and-so called me out, or, hey, I got this match coming up. There's so many different things promotion-wise, like, that wrestlers can do if they know what they're doing. Like, I hate it because there's a lot of times you'll see wrestlers post promos nowadays. It's like, yeah, and on October, we'll say 15th. On October 15th, it doesn't matter who gets in my way, I'm going to crush them. And everyone's promos like that because nobody knows what they're doing. But when you have, hey, AJ, you're wrestling O'Shea Edwards August 12th. Cool. Now in my head, I can cut a promo on O'Shea. I can be legit about it because O'Shea was one of the groomsmen in my wedding. So like I can be legit about this now and talk about how this is not a fight, so to speak, or how it's a wrestling match, but how this is like
an act of betrayal.
We don't have to tell that story. It could be just something out of respect. Then you can set up the story of betrayal, because you can even do something where like, hey man, you were my groomsman, I trust you, let's go out here and entertain the crowd, have a friendly exhibition, and then we get in the match and I'm a douchebag and I low blow him, I kick him in the balls. Then there's the betrayal, and that builds the arc. And there's just it's such little details that can tell such a fascinating story.
And even going further into this, because obviously you've had some amazing matches. Both, the first time you held the belt and then the second time you held the belt. And like Chris DeRusso, Terrence Morelli, Riley Rose, Gary Gandy, Jeffrey John, Jeremy Rodriguez.
I'm very happy with this run. So the Jeremy Rodriguez one, I had their like Money in the Bank thing. Jeremy beat me, and then I cashed in immediately and won it right back. So that's why I have 2 reigns, but it's still one continuous reign.
It goes back to where I'm going with this idea where
Jeremy
was like, yes, I finally won the belt, and then you completely took it away, and then it set you up.
Yeah.
And brings you to the next level.
Yep.
And it's very important, I think, that, the psychology aspect of wrestling, because also for the fans, it allows you to pivot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously you had a match with Riley Rose as well.
Love Riley. As much as we hate each other at Route 33, I love Riley to death.
And so it's very interesting. And obviously, I mean, you're the champ and you're really, the face of that company in a lot of ways. And so what is that like? That is a big responsibility that I think people don't understand, whether you're, 1 year in or you're 10 years in or 20 years in. Anytime you have the belt on you and you've had a bunch of title defenses, I mean, whoever's going to beat you for that belt eventually, I mean, they're going to have to earn it, and then they're going to be, it's because every title defense that you're successful at, it just makes that belt that much more prestigious in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And it also helps. So this title run, I'm very happy with how everything's playing out. I'm very happy with all of my matches. I remember when Jess told me she was putting the title on me, I told her that I was going to give her the best quality of champion that I could possibly give her, whether it be match quality, from a visual standpoint, just my appearance. And since I told her that, I am down, not to brag, but I am down 50 pounds, and I'm starting to look like I belong on TV. instead of looking like a bag of cottage cheese. But yeah, I remember specifically telling her that I was going to give her, I want to give her a run where 5 years from now, she can look back at that and was like, yeah, he really did give us his all. So this run specifically, I'm very happy with. I got to defend the title in Canada a couple times. I got to defend it against Riley a couple times. Jeffrey John is another really good one. Me and Gary Gandy freaking killed each other. Yeah, it goes back, man. I've loved everything about Route 33. It's top to bottom.
So, and you mentioned something that obviously in 5 years from now, you want this to be looked back upon. And one of the things that I think has started to happen in wrestling a lot more, and WWE, WCW, Impact Wrestling, all that stuff for the most part has been recorded, but not necessarily the house shows.
Yeah.
And what's happening a lot on the indies, and I think it's a relatively new thing, is that a lot of shows are being recorded, a lot of shows are being streamed. And one of the things that I'm a strong believer of, and it's something that I think about with this show, it's something that I think about, and I have another podcast, and it's fusing with this one. My other show does 100 plays a day, without any marketing. And so a lot of those episodes have a lot of replay value, and stuff on IWTV has replay value. And so, that's something that I think. I'm a big anime fan. I don't know if I love anime. I love like Peacock, whatever's on Peacock. There's a bunch of shows, and I think a lot of this stuff has replay value. And I think that that's starting to come, and I think wrestling's entering that era at this point where people are saying, look, I'm not necessarily loving Monday Night Raw, but I love Monday Night Raw from 1995 to 2000. So I can watch that, and it's still entertaining. And I'm watching 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, just not what's on television.
Yep.
And so does that cross your mind, per se, with any of this? Or is that something you're not thinking about? Because
so
I think a little bit.
Yeah. I just recently got onto streaming services, like the bigger ones. I know Jess puts all of her shows on like Vimeo, I think, or she does something newer now. I don't know what it is. But like I just recently gotten my foot in the door at Paradigm, which runs on IWTV.
We're going to talk about that, I promise.
Yeah. I just recently got my foot in the door at AAW in Chicago. They're on Fight TV. So like, yeah, I would say, and Lee Moriarty was the one who was telling me like, that's where I need to be. Not necessarily at AAW or Paradigm. It's more so get on IWTV, get on Fight TV, because these things help tenfold with exposure, which then boosts your social media, which then boosts your bookings and boosts your rate, and then gets more time on TV and flip-flop, make it in the business, kid.
Because that's interesting, because obviously, I mean, I made the jump to streaming, and it's definitely helped, where I did a lot of pre-recorded stuff, and eventually all this stuff's going to get into a podcast, because that's just another distribution channel, and why would I not want to be on every distribution channel that I could potentially be on?
Right.
So I think that obviously, I mean, IWTV, Fight TV, Title Network, or whatever that's called.
Title Match Network or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then obviously there's some other stuff out there too, like Pluto TV's got some stuff. At some point Netflix or Paramount or Peacock is going to create a wrestling thing. And obviously that's kind of where it all matters too, especially if it's live, because the secret is that, and I don't know how you are, but I tweet a lot about wrestling. I'm right now on a slightly wrestling vacation where I'm watching a lot less wrestling because I'm on an anime vibe right now. But I used to watch every Monday night, Beyond, and I used to tweet about it for 2 hours. And I'm interacting with those wrestlers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy when they're interacting with you and the wall isn't that far away anymore.
Yeah, that's the best part about indie wrestling, is that we're not on such a big platform and a big stage where we don't have literally hundreds of thousands of people tweeting at us a day or sliding in our DMs a day, where we have we'll do a show that's live and then we'll get 10 mentions on Twitter or something little like that. And then we can go interact with those mentions because there's only 10 of you guys. And like, I understand, like Seth Rollins, for instance, right? He tweeted something about not being on SummerSlam, and he got like hundreds of thousands of responses. He obviously can't get back to every single person. But someone like me who gets 3 to 5 mentions every Paradigm show, I can reach back out to you guys. I can follow you guys. I can open up and be me with you rather than missing out on you because.
I mean, it's crazy. Me and wrestlers legitly after a show have gone back and forth, and I was in character and they're in character.
Right.
And it's brilliant. And guess what happens? What people don't understand is that it has a multiplication effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all of a sudden when somebody responds to me, I respond back, and they respond back to me. Like I always have an interaction with Darren Corbin, and I'm an Ariana Grande fan. And so when he comes out side to side, all I do is I send a gift of Ariana Grande singing side to side on the bicycle. I think it's funny. And then when he wins, I'm like, yeah, we get to listen to the song again, everybody. And he laughs too because it's hilarious. And when he loses, I say, I can't watch this show anymore. And like it just starts a whole interaction. And it goes on for like 3 or 4 or 5 responses. But again, that's really good for him. It's good for me because it gets eyes on what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then when I tweet out, and then what I do is that I'll usually attach, especially if I interview that wrestler, I'll attach the interview I do with that wrestler in the thread when it's done. This way, I'm getting exposure, they're getting further exposure, and everybody's winning. And it's unbelievable. And so it's very, very, very cool because if it's played right, everybody can, figure it out. And it's great and it's fun. And I've gotten some very, very, very people saying, you suck when I've done that when Darren Corbin wins. I'm just like, I guess you're not side to side with us.
Right.
But it's super fascinating because we're in a different era. Like I came into IWTV maybe 4 years ago. So I was just saying, hey, what indie wrestling's out there? I'm bored with the traditional product. And I was like, man, I came into it and then I watched everything on IWTV, and I was watching stream after stream after stream. And this was right when they were just doing maybe like 70, 80 streams a year. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then they went up from 80 to doing like 120, and now they're doing like 250 streams from all over the world. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Just streaming platforms is where it's at. If you're if you are indie anything, get onto a streaming platform.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, I'm there. I'm streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch right now. Nobody's checking out my stuff, but it's all right. It's all right, everybody.
One day you'll have thousands of people, and we will look back on this specific clip and say that we called it.
It's coming. It's coming. And you know what it is? It's coming because what happens with my sector, and I've been doing this for 10 years, podcasting / streaming, is a lot of people come in, people stay for a year or two. They realize how tough it is, and then they leave, and then they take 2 years off, and then they come back in, and then they leave again. Yes. And I've been doing this for 10 years, almost 500 plus interviews at this point. And at this point, for me, the real play is not to worry about it. Take a Joe Rogan approach, because if you produce content, you market it, and then you figure out the marketing play with it, you'll have the library, and then all of a sudden, everybody's going to want to watch episode 1, and then you get the backlog, and then you get the front log. That's how Rogan built it. And we got Joe Rogan's early stuff. Nobody was watching him. And then what started happening is that it's like, oh, snap, this guy's got 700, 800, 900 episodes. How did he get this many things? Then he got more interesting guests and so on and so forth. And then hopefully, you get lucky. You get lucky every once in a while, and people come to you and they're like, oh, snap, you actually have really cool people on, like Chris Daniels. So here you go.
Yeah.
and Kazarian I had on my show. and Leva Bates and AG and Tegan Knox. But I digress. I just like to tout my people.
I love Tegan.
She's great. Nixon. She's fantastic. I had her when she was a nobody. That's what's cool about it. So like
That's really cool, actually.
Everything that she said about like Molly Holly and all these other people, she said it first in like that interview. And it's just like, oh. And I'm like, when she came to the interview, I'm like, guys, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club. Like, I had Anthony Green on before I went to WWE. I had Josh Briggs on before I went to WWE.
Oh, jeez.
I had Leva Bates before she went to AEW.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this is my first podcast in 4. I think I did one when I was like 3 months in. So this is my first real podcast. So hopefully you can say that about me in a couple of years.
Yeah, I got no doubt about it, man. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to go to WWE or AEW or Impact, or you might take an Effie approach where Effie's doing really well. And honestly, I don't think Effie wants to go to AEW or Impact or WWE.
Well, I don't think so.
I think he can make more money and he has more freedom on the indies. And honestly, I think he likes being on the indies. I think that's because let me ask you a question, because obviously I'm not a wrestler.
Yeah.
I've never worked for a wrestling company. Never say never. That's all I'm going to say on that point. May or may not want to start a promotion in Connecticut where I'm living right now. I legitimately have the perfect location. I have no problem saying it. The Bethel Track Gym is perfect for wrestling, and it's perfect for O'Shea Edwards. It's perfect. It's perfect. I have
specifically him.
So they have all of these like garage doors, I guess, in like their gym that store stuff. And the reason why it's perfect for him is that everybody else's entrance will be different. His entrance will be the garage door will open and smoke will come out as he comes out.
Oh, I'm sure he'd love that.
Oh. I mean, he's going to be my champion. At least he's going to be the first one. He just doesn't know it yet. and that's his entrance. That's his entrance because and he's going to be like the face of the company. And you're just going to see it. And he's going to come out and like the lights are going to go dark and it's going to be like blue and red smoke. Oh, it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. Yeah. But he's not going to be announced. And that's what's going to be great about it. Is that it's going to come out and everybody's going to be like, I'm going to have it streamed. Oh, I have the entire thing planned because it is perfect. It is perfect. And that venue can hold like 500 people, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
And it has the parking because it's a high school.
Yeah.
And it's a high school, and they have the parking, and I don't know exactly. They have like an upper tier on the track thing, which is where commentary and like the entire like sound team and all like the lighting control. Oh, it'll be epic. It'll be epic, and it'll be local, and I'm gonna live like 10 miles away, so it'll be good.
That's good.
But I digress right there. I don't know where I was going with this, so that's a problem.
You said you had a question about, and then you said something about Effie, and then you had a question.
Oh yeah, I got totally distracted. This happens all the time. Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember my question. This doesn't normally happen, everybody.
Well, while you're thinking of your question, I was at a show this past Saturday at Garden State Pro in Jersey, and Effie was there, and he wrestled. Brian Keith, I think. He wrestled someone, and I was talking to him before the show. And Mouse, Billy Stark's dad, the photographer, asked me if I wanted to go on a road trip with him and Billy up to the Mall of America. It's like, yeah, sure. I don't have anything going on that day. Like, I'll go. Effie was like, all right, good. I'm glad you're going because I'm done looking like the creepy old man on the roller coaster inside the mall by myself. I was like, oh, 100% I'll ride with you. So me and Effie have a date to ride the roller coaster inside the Mall of America on September 10th, I think.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
I haven't been to the Mall of America in a while. Last time I was there, I was with a girl, and I should have married her. So we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
That's right.
She's outside, like this like jewelry shop, and she's like looking at the jewelry. I'm with her. And we were at like a libertarian event. And the only reason why I was there is because they had a bunch of free alcohol.
That's not a bad reason.
This is what happens at libertarian events. If anybody's ever interested, you learn about it. You get lectured. It's any thought matters. It's a free political discussion. You could have any political ideology, and then at night after you eat dinner, they throw parties where you can basically drink yourself into a stupor. Half of the entire group got drunk. Nobody remembers anything. You fall asleep pretty much shit faced, and it's excellent. Is what happens. And I drink a lot of beer. I drink like at least 40 beers that week.
That's fair.
It's great, and it was all paid for too. My lodging was paid for. My food was paid for.
Oh, that's beautiful, then.
It was the greatest vacation ever. I was up in Bryn Mawr. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's like an old campus. Got free food. Got a free room. Legitimately got lectured to for like 35 hours and actually enjoyed it and didn't have to take a test. That was great. It was absolutely wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. I recommend it to anybody. Anytime you can do that and you have the freedom to do it, oh, absolutely. And again, it's not political. You can come in however you want to come in and you can have a good time. And all I know is that it's a thought-free zone where anybody can have any thoughts and you're just discussing your thoughts. But anyway, so this is my question actually about it is that how do you feel that wrestling has changed? Because in the last 4 years, per se, with streaming and all that stuff, because I feel that it has evolved very much with things like IWTV and even Fight Network and all those people and all those companies coming in, where it's changed the mentality of the wrestler, it's changed social media, and also it's changed, I think, even the way, promotions operate at this point, because they do have a bigger platform. And also even just the expansion of YouTube and putting matches up on YouTube, where that's become, I think, a bigger thing as well. And even wrestlers putting matches up on YouTube when they can, because it also goes back to things now being taped, whether they're being streamed or taped and all that stuff as well. And I'm curious because I'm not in the business per se. And so for me, it's a little weird. I mean, I used to do a lot of anime presentations. And then COVID hit, and I would always record my anime presentations because I realized that I don't know what I'm going to do with this stuff, but at some point, maybe I can cut it up, re-release it, put it somewhere, sell it somewhere, or just put it up on YouTube and other people can enjoy it. So I'm really curious how you view that, because it seems like you're realizing that you need to be on a streaming service and be on promotions that do that, and even before something gets distributed later on, whether it's streamed or distributed later on.
I feel like it boils down to what I said earlier with Twitter. What runs wrestling? It's weird, but it does. So the exposure that you receive from the streaming services nowadays. So back then, 4 or 5 years ago, the streaming services weren't providing as much exposure as, say, nowadays are, because I would imagine COVID had a lot to do with it, with everyone being stuck in their house, and diehard wrestling fans can't go watch their local indie anymore. But they can all of a sudden get a subscription on IWTV, and you can watch Paradigm, you can watch Beyond, you can watch the Wrestling Open, you can watch TWE down in Chattanooga. Like, you can watch all these things in the comfort of your own home now. But with that growing audience on them streaming platforms, I feel like it comes with exposure, which then turns over to Twitter mentions and follows and interactions, which then leads to bigger and better bookings all the way until you get to the top. And I think a very good example of that is Lee Moriarty, where he was kind of just a guy who was stuck in Pittsburgh. As good as he was stuck in Pittsburgh for a long time. And then when he finally got out and got onto the streaming platforms and people seen how good he was, he just climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. And now he's signed by AEW. So that's probably the best example I have for the streaming platforms and how much power that it can hold in wrestling. But yeah, it boils down to exposure, really.
Yeah, because it's really interesting to me, because obviously, I think that it also provides a whole, living, and it provides an alternative to having to sign with AEW or even WWE, where I don't think that was possible 5 years ago. And you
No.
mentioned Effie, and obviously I love Effie, and I got to interview Effie right before he became big. And
Yeah.
I shoot people emails, and I don't expect anything, and I'm amazed that he said yes. And it was a great interview. And at prime time, he actually wore my T-shirt out. It was cool. They didn't know about it, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I said, hey, if I sponsor the event, would you do it? And it was great. It was great. And then I said, maybe we'll both wear Nikes and join a cult. And he laughed at that because he understood what I was referring to. But it's a bad joke. It's a bad joke. It's a really bad joke. It's the Haley's Comet cult, if you're interested. But I digress right there. But one of the things is that I think it does provide an alternative. So it's just fascinating, and I'm curious how you feel about that as well. And then we're going to talk about O'Shea because I love O'Shea. There's a great picture of me and O'Shea. It's a great picture.
I'll have to see it sometime. Send it to me. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, how do you feel about the fact that like all these streaming services are really providing, I guess, an opportunity for wrestlers to not have to necessarily join, AEW or WWE?
That's beautiful. Because I know a lot of people nowadays, and I don't know what it is after the Vince retirement thing, but like a lot of people nowadays look at wrestling and they're like, okay, well, me personally, they look at it and they're like, okay, I don't want to go to WWE because that's just a system of entertainment and I'm a pro wrestler. And then that same person might look at AEW and be like, okay, well, they're focused heavy on the moves rather than storytelling. And then they look at MLW and they could say something about them, Ring of Honor, say something about them, Impact, say something about them. And the fact that you can still make a living shown by the Young Bucks you can make a living off the indies nowadays. Shown by Effie, Alley Catch, Nick Gage. Like you can make a living not being on a major platform. And it gives people like me hope at the end of the day.
So let me even ask about this because, I mean, full disclosure, I own WWE stock. I think they're a great company. I think that WWE, and I think this is the misconception. I don't think WWE is a wrestling company.
No.
Much like I don't think GCW is a wrestling company either. I don't think GCW is a wrestling company. I think they are a well-done theater company that uses wrestling as theater, much like WWE does. I think a company like Impact is a wrestling company. I think a company like AEW is a wrestling company. Now, if you go, John Cena is a wrestler, though. Seth Rollins is a wrestler. Nick Gage is a wrestler. This is not saying they're not wrestlers, but what are they actually? Because if you look at, I don't view WWE as a media company. I think GCW is a media company. I don't know if AEW is a media company or if it's a conglomerate of a bunch of really smaller, duct tape / welded together parts that makes a really cool product. That's how I view AEW, and it's no disrespect to AEW or anybody who works there. I think Chris Jericho is arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best wrestler right now.
Yeah.
But I think that that's also a mentality where people also have to say, look, if I'm getting, a $500,000 every year working for WWE, wrestling in front of a lot of people, and I'm going to be there for 7 years, and then when I leave, my rate as a wrestler goes up. I mean, that's the other thing, too, that I think a lot of people need to realize, that if I was able to join a podcast network and run this show and be there for 5 years and then leave and then develop a following / have the ability to raise my rates if I went to another station, because right now I'm independent. I'm not affiliated with anybody. I mean, I have to understand what the value is of that. So,
yeah, 100%. Because I made the statement as a dumb kid about a year ago where I was riding in the car with someone and I said that if WWE offered me a contract, I wouldn't take it because I don't like what they're doing with the wrestlers. And they're like, well, you're stupid for not doing that because then you go to NXT. Cool. Now you get to learn under Shawn Michaels. You get to learn under Triple H. You get to learn under all these guys. You get to build that brand. and then say after 3 years, you choose not to re-sign. Cool. Now you are a sought-after free agent on the Indies with a very extremely high rate.
I'll throw you the name. That's the name. There's two names. Alex Zane is a good name to drop, and Anthony Green, alternative Anthony Green. No doubt about it. Both of those guys. Timothy Thatcher is another good one. And look, they're going to be cutting some other people. I have a pretty good idea. I mean, and look. I mean, Killer Cross is somewhat of a hot name right now too.
Yeah.
But you know, you have people like, and then Mia Yim and Keith Lee are somewhat hot names right now. Also, I mean, not as hot as Killer Cross, not as hot as AP and Alex Zane. I mean, Alex Zane and Anthony Green are well sought out. So that's all I'm going to say on that point is, and it goes back to comics. What we say in comics is that if DC said to me, Andrew, do you want to write Batman? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because why wouldn't you write it? And I've had this conversation with people in the Indies, and they're like, I don't want to write Batman. I'm like, no, you don't understand. If you write 6 issues of Batman, you're going to be able to do whatever you want in any other company, and any other company's not going to take you seriously. Yes. It doesn't matter if you wrote good Batman. It's the fact that you did it and they asked you to do it. So that when you want your book published by Dark Horse or IDW, which are 2 comic companies, there you go. But I digress because we're going to get ourselves canceled, clearly. That's all I'm going to say. No. This is not going to get ourselves canceled because I think wrestling is pretty torn on that evenly.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a canceling offense. Now, if you say Brock Lesnar is going to win at SummerSlam, well, your career is over.
Honestly, a little inside thing. I think Austin Theory walks out with the title at SummerSlam.
So I had a discussion with somebody about this, and I had a discussion with a voice actor, Eric Scott Kimmer, who's a wrestler, and he does a Laughing Peter or with Brian Kendrick out in California.
Okay, yeah.
On Twitch, he's the Sassy Assassin. He's the snake guy in Demon Slayer, the voice actor. So
okay.
Yeah, really cool interview. I didn't interview him for wrestling. I interviewed him because he's a voice actor, and I thought he was going to say no. So I said, "What the hell, right?" But we were talking about this, and what I'm hoping happens, and I'm curious your thought is, I'm hoping that Roman and Brock go for like 40 minutes, right? That's what I think would be great. Now, I want Austin Theory to be on commentary during that match. Hear my logic. I don't know. Did you freeze?
No. I'm here. I'm listening.
You were just like not moving. I'm like, is he still alive?
I was focused.
So I want him to be on commentary, and then like every 10 minutes, I want him to tease him moving it and then pulling it back and just waiting for the right moment to strike. And I want him to almost like tease it, and I think it'd be brilliant because that's what I want. And then I think Austin Theory winning the belt would be brilliant. I think it'd be ultra great. I think it'd be super smart. But I want like Austin Theory to tease it a few times during the match because I think that would really like solidify it, and it would be like poking the bear.
Here's what I would love to see happen, because the idea going forward is Roman and Rock at Mania. Roman and The Rock at Mania. They don't need the title for that. Cody's coming back by Royal Rumble. Cody wins the Rumble. Then you set up Cody and Theory at Mania. But here's how Theory wins the title without beating Roman, right? Because you can't make Roman look weak at all. This match at SummerSlam is last man standing. Brock and Roman, boom, they're both down. Count gets up to like 6. Theory's music hits. He cashes in. He's the only one standing. Finish out that count. Theory's the new champ. And he looks like a dick because he cashed in when they both killed each other. So now he's the champion. He didn't have to beat either of them. And you got their belts off Roman. That's how I would personally like to see it go down.
That could be very interesting. That could be fascinating. I mean, where, I hope in that match they fight around the arena. I really do.
Oh, they probably will.
And I'm hoping that Austin Theory cashes in not in the ring and in like a foreign place, because I think it would be cooler.
I would like to see them do something where like Roman spears Brock through the stage, whatever stage they have set up. Have him spear him through the stage, have all the pyro go off, and then let that count start. And then let Theory just waltz out onto the stage, cash in, and that's it. He walks away with both titles.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because I don't see any other ending to SummerSlam but Austin Theory cashing in.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't cash in, it would be fun. Like if Sami Zayn won it and Sami would just prance around for the year with the briefcase. So that would be fun for Sami, and he would just walk out and Sami on commentary. But I don't see any other way how SummerSlam can end with Austin Theory not having the titles in some way or another.
Yeah.
Or at least one of the titles. I don't know what now.
I don't know how they would do that, but yeah.
He
has to win something.
The question is that it'd be cool if Austin Theory beat Bobby Lashley and won back his U.S. title too. I think that would be fascinating because now that makes Austin Theory even look better.
Yeah.
Because I think that would also throw deception off of him cashing in. Because
does Theory have a match?
He does have a match against Bobby Lashley for his U.S. title.
Okay. I hate to say it, I don't watch American wrestling, so I didn't know that.
No. I don't watch anything but the pay-per-views.
I only tune into the pay-per-view. There's something on the card that interests me.
No. I mean, I don't watch the NXT pay-per-views. I just watch one WWE pay-per-view a month. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's no good reason for me to watch anything unless there's something cool on, Monday Night Raw. For instance, like John Cena's 20th celebration, I watched like 30 minutes of Raw because it's John Cena, because it made sense. But the only reason why, I'm watching SummerSlam. I watched, the thing before that, Money in the Bank. I'm going to watch, United Clash of Champions because it's 3 hours and it keeps me up to date in the wrestling world.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I didn't know Austin Theory had another match.
Yeah, so I think it'd be great because I think it'd almost be, Seth Rollins, and then he could be like, look, I did it too, Seth.
Yeah.
Because Seth at SummerSlam won the U.S. belt and had his WWE champion against John Cena, and then he faced Sting. And I think it would be great. And I think, you could almost play that off, and then you could have Seth Rollins, be like, see, look, I'm not even on the card, and you have Austin Theory doing it. And then, you could build Austin Theory to Cody and that.
Yeah.
And you could have Austin Theory work with Seth Rollins, which only built him further and only taught Cody.
Yeah.
But I'm not booking a match. If I was booking this, oh my God.
Yeah.
If I was booking this, all the 4 women horsemen would be fighting the 4 UFC women horsemen. I wrote an entire article on that. I wrote the booking on that too on my website.
I don't know why they never pulled the trigger on that.
I wrote the entire thing. It was like 6 pages, and all they had to do was copy it. And I basically wrote it where you got Asuka in, you got her out of the situation. You then got Charlotte and Becky clashing and then forming a truce. Then you had to convince Sasha to join. Then Bayley came back from an injury, and you got Bayley in. And now all of a sudden, and I had the whole 8-month plan written. It's still up on my website. And it would have been brilliant. And then on the other side, you would have had it being built up 8 months out to Mania, essentially, of pretty much both sides building their army, essentially, with the 4 of them. And then you could potentially have betrayals and then reunions.
Yeah.
And I basically moved 15 other people out of the picture in the roster. It's like, oh my God. I wish I could have booked it. It would have been brilliant. But again,
all 8 of them women are so talented too. That match would have been so good.
I mean that's like legitly. That's either you start Mania off with that or you end Mania off with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's how you start Mania, and I'll explain why. With all 8 of those women, because that will set the tone for the rest of the show.
Yeah, 100%. Because now you have to go out and top what they just did off the aura that all 8 of them brought with them.
And I would have Lita and Trish Stratus on commentary.
That's fair. Yes.
I would have them on commentary, but I would have Michael Cole there too. And the only reason why
as the lead guy,
I would have Michael Cole in the middle because Michael Cole would temper the Trish Stratus and Lita's rivalry and channel it to the match.
Yeah.
And Michael Cole would be able to take all the sponsors that were necessary to make sure that match could be paid for, which is what you need, which is how you understand wrestling.
Yeah.
But I digress. I do want to talk about O'Shea, and this is me and O'Shea, guys.
Oh, gosh, you actually pulled it up. Yes. Look how exhausted he is. He's a mess.
This is meanwhile, I'm barely standing in this photo. And it's great. So this is after he beat Rex Keller, or I think it's Rex. It doesn't matter. Or Bro Keller, I think.
Bro Keller. I love Bro Keller, man.
Yeah, I always get his name wrong. Because it sounds and it's spelled one way.
Yeah, it's like Breaux or something.
He knows I'm going to get it wrong too. But this was after at primetime. They put up a steel cage. They had an Ultimate X match at that show.
Oh,
and
geez.
Jaden came out, and O'Shea, Bro was escaping the cage. Jaden comes out and beats up Bro, and then they zip tie his hands to the cage.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And now I'm sitting with like 2 of O'Shea's friends by accident.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is awesome. And I'm just like cheering. I'm cheering because I thought it was epic. Epic. I was there when O'Shea won the primetime champion from Bro. I was there at that show, and then I was there at the next primetime event, which was a disaster because O'Shea faced Billy Dixon, and that match was just a squash match. Where it was just too short, and it was like right after intermission, everybody was in the bathroom, and like it was not good. But I digress. And they never really, I don't think they ever got to finish their rivalry. Bro and O'Shea, but because primetime then went under and then they came back, but I don't really know what the hell's going on. I live in DC. But let's talk about that because obviously you and O'Shea are somewhat close. And
we're really close.
He's a beast. He's a monster, for lack of a better word.
I worked out with him. I stayed with him one time up in Baltimore, and I went to the gym with him. Did one workout with him. I couldn't feel my arms for like 3 or 4 days, so that's beside the point. Yeah, dude's an animal.
Wasn't he like a former fire chief, I think?
I don't know about that one.
I know that he moved from the South.
Yeah, Atlanta. He was down in Atlanta.
Yeah, to train at a Ring of Honor.
Yeah, the dojo up there.
Because he was on my show, and we spoke for like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
A lot of crazy shit was on that show. He's great. Yeah. And so what is this like though? Because obviously, you know, this is a big opportunity for lack of a better word here, where O'Shea really is right at the cusp of going to the next level, where that guy is definitely either AEW material or NXT material or Ring of Honor material, and wherever he really wants to go. And he just needs a little bit of more shine on him. He just needs the opportunity, really. He just needs to be given an opportunity at this point.
I honestly personally think it's a real shame that he's not on TV somewhere. I feel like there's a lot of companies missing out on, because I will say it on repeat until I'm blue in the face. Find me another big man like him who works big.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
Who works big, who can go, who has the gas tank, and doing what he does on a consistent basis. And if you can find someone like that for me, please show me that isn't signed to a major company, because Jake something is freaking. But I would love to see O'Shea and Jake something.
The only other person I can think of is Calvin Tinkerman.
Yeah, I love Tank, but he signed with MLW.
Is Eric Royal signed with anybody?
I don't know about that one.
Eric Royal is similar to O'Shea, but that's the only other person I can think of.
Right. There's not many of them. So like, get them while you can.
I mean, and I mean, you gotta shoot. Matt Tremont is a big man who can go, but Matt Tremont doesn't want to go to a big company. He's running H2O.
Right.
If you're running H2O and you're teaching the next generation and you're calling your own shots, and why the hell would you want to go to another company?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're in Jersey and you have a pretty damn good system set up. But I think it's a real problem that O'Shea's not signed.
Yeah, I agree.
Even on just a like per diem contract with AEW would be fantastic.
Anything. It's a real shame that he doesn't have anything right now. And the thing is, he's on the Indies and he's still just killing it in and out.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy, and I mean he's good, and he's something else. I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. Everything that guy does, the way that guy just knows how to cut a promo, I mean, it's unreal. I saw him in when Trish Adora won the Pan African Championship at that show.
Yeah, that show was First Wrestling or something down in DC.
Yeah. That show was the weirdest show I ever went to. It was in like an art gallery, man. Like it was weird. No ropes, no tape. You're sitting there. A lot of people were there. It's like it was so weird. And not like the wrestling ring, but like I'm like, this is kind of like an art ballerina studio. Like it was like, right. And you're like, it was cool though. It was cool. I mean, it was a cool show. It was an exciting show. It was cool when she won. Everybody got up to the ring and tapped it.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
Yeah, Trish is really good.
But yeah, so what are you doing to prep up for this match? Because that's what we all want to know.
What am I doing to prep for this match? Training.
Yeah.
I'm in the ring twice a week for about 3 to 4 hours each time. And then obviously the weekends, I'm just hitting the road, traveling, trying to learn as much as I can. I got to sit down with, I got to learn some new moves from Miyu Yamashita. I did a Kenosuke Takeshita seminar, sat down with Josh Alexander, learned a lot from him. So like I'm going out of my way to really, really bring all I have with him, because I know wrestling him is going to pull out my absolute best. And that's what he's the biggest name to date I've wrestled. And I can't wait. I physically can't wait for it. I'm pissed that there's 2 weeks between me and him right now.
And even to talk about that, because obviously, I mean, this is sort of a must talked about match to some degree. And it is something that I think people are stoked for on the card. I think that this is definitely a selling point for this event. You know, more so, not to take away from anybody else, and there's some great people on that card, but for people who obviously know what O'Shea can do, you know, and people who have been following O'Shea, they know that this match is kind of the match to see. And so what is that like? Because it's also on IWTV, and right. It is going to be pushed out there. And I don't know paradigms, you know, numbers per se, but it's a decent amount of people that watch it, and then a bunch of people see it elsewhere and people interact with it. So what is that like for you going into this? Because every time you have a match like this, it definitely increases your audience, or it has the potential to get you seen by somebody who may or may not have seen you before.
Right. I guess to sum it up with one word, because I can't really think of anything else, intimidating. it's super intimidating knowing that wrestling him, period, and keeping up with him is one thing, and then all the eyes that he draws on himself, which in turn will draw them on myself. It's very intimidating looking at that from the outside.
No, I get it. I get it. It's going to be a fascinating match, and obviously that this is where I think it's going. And I think Paradigm has also slowly been increasing their audience
Yes.
in the last few years, and I mean they've had a lot of matches. They've had a lot of stuff going on, and I haven't seen everything, but they bring in a lot of people. I think they brought in Gary J for a bunch of stuff, and so like it's not a joke anymore either. This company where they've really stepped up their talent.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people are now starting to realize that, oh, okay, this is now a company that's really come and swing for the fences. It's like New Wave Pro is really swinging for the fences. And I think it's super interesting in that regard.
Yeah, I know just on this show alone, we got Myron Reed is on the card. Big Beef, Gnarls Garvin's on the card.
He's great.
Yeah,
both of those guys are great.
Love Beef. Shug D's on the card. Chase Holiday. There's a lot of people leaving out
too. Pineapple Pete, baby, Pineapple Pete.
Right.
I love Pineapple Pete.
Robert Martyr's on the card, and I just watched him go to war with Davey Richards, which was a phenomenal match.
Did you see Malachi Black versus Davey Richards?
I have not.
Oh, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. It's probably the best match of this year so far.
I'll check it out.
It was out in Cali, and that entire show was crazy. You had Filthy Tom. Oh, Filthy Tom. Yeah. I always forget his last name. You had Alex Shelley and Dalton Castle in a match.
Oh, was this Prestige?
Yes.
So I saw Alex Shelley and Dalton Castle. I went out of my way to watch that match, but I didn't watch the full card.
Then you had, I think, Taya Valkyrie versus shoot. I forget the guy's name, but he was interacting with me because I thought it was hilarious. He stapled a Frankie Monet thing to her head, which is brilliant. And then at the end of that match, you had Athena come out.
Oh yeah.
So you had Ember Moon come out to attack Taya, but not as Ember Moon, as Athena, because she was just yeah, Davey Richards versus Malachi Black. And then you had all this. You had Nick. Shoot! I'm so bad at this. Versus Ethan HD, and it was arguably probably one of the best shows of 2022 so far. And that match between Davey Richards and Malachi Black, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check out the rest of that show.
That the entire show was well worth it. I mean, nothing against the first match, but you could probably skip the first match and you didn't. It wasn't a bad match, but the Taya match, great match. Mm-hmm. You had, because it was like a hardcore match too, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, epic, dude. It was just epic. It was just so good. Prestige is just such a great company.
Yeah, I agree. Joe Dombrowski, the guy who helps me out a lot, commentates for them as well.
It's wild. It's wild. But I get sidetracked on this show now.
You're good, man. I ain't got nowhere to be.
So obviously, though, I do want to back out of this. The O'Shea match is going to be a good match. However it turns out, it's going to be a great match. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be an exciting one. And I got a feeling that this is, Alexander versus O'Shea, Alexander versus Edwards, round one.
Yeah.
And then you'll form a tag team after it.
I would love to see him become a rival moving forward. I feel like he's one of them guys that no matter how many times I wrestle him, I just progressively get better.
No, I'm looking forward to it because I think it's streaming, right? It's not recorded, or is it recorded and then it's going to air later?
I think that because Paradigm has two brands, They have like a Pure Rules brand. I don't really know what that one's called. And then they have the actual pro wrestling one. And the pro wrestling one is recorded and then uploaded like a week and a half later.
I get confused, and again, I haven't seen everything. I also sometimes pay more attention than not, and things come on and off all the time on IWTV, and everything is different at this point. Like Limitless is very much pre-recorded.
Yeah.
Except I think all Limitless for the most part has been pre-recorded. Limitless is a crazy company.
Yes.
So they did the road. They did the road, I think, over 2 weekends. So the way they recorded the road is that a lot of the people, like Rip Bison and Perry Von Vicious, had 3 or 4 matches in a row. So they had a match, and then they had like 2 hours off, and then they did another match.
Oh.
And then they did like a third match, like 2 hours later, and then they stayed, and they did the fourth match on that Sunday.
Oh, that's a lot.
But it wasn't. But this was all divided over like 18 weeks, how it aired.
Yeah, right.
So, and the reason why is that if you are putting certain people together, and if you have, 4 people are working. So if you have Rip versus Logan Black in one match, and then you have Logan Black and his tag team partner in another match, and you have Perry Von Vicious versus Logan's partner in a single match, and Rips versus Logan, and then they have a tag team match. Those people now, and they do those 2 matches in the same day. They don't have to quarantine during COVID.
Right. Yeah.
And so there was a rationale, because now, guess what? Let's say 2 weeks later, one of those guys gets COVID. They don't have to come back to do the match.
Right. It's already done.
And so it's crazy if you think about it, but it's also, you just did 4 matches, but they didn't all air at the same time. They aired over a period of time. And that's why Limitless, The Road, seasons 2 and 3 are interesting, because they're cut a certain way.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's the best part about like TV tapings to an extent, is that you can film 3, 4, 5 matches, and then you don't have to go back to that company. You can fill those dates with other bookings now, because you've already done what you need to do there for the next 7 weeks.
It's also interesting because I know people who have done that, and then while their match is airing on Wednesday, they're also wrestling.
Right, yeah.
And now they can do some weird, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Where they're getting double social media promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that raises a very interesting question about double dipping. But, hey, if it's your sauce, you could double dip as much as you want.
That's all it is.
If it's community sauce, I'm just going to let everybody know, please don't double dip.
Hey, take your chances. Have everyone look the other way and take that double dip.
Just saying. I like to remain healthy is all I'm going to say. But I digress. I do want to back out of wrestling, though, slightly. And I am curious, and we touched upon this a little bit, but actually, we got to talk about one more thing, technically. How do you feel about Billy Starks?
Oh, what was the question?
How do you feel about Billy Starks?
How do I feel about her? Man, she is phenomenal. If I had to narrow it down to one word, for as young as she is and as good as she is phenomenal.
She's my favorite Twitter follow right now.
What is it?
She's my favorite person who follows me on Twitter.
That's fair. That's really fair. I just watched her go toe-to-toe with Miyu Yamashita and Janai Kai in a triple threat match over in Jersey. Like, that match, if that was the main event of any show ever, I'd be okay with it. That match was so good.
Yeah, no, it's Billy just amazing matches with Charlie Cruel.
Yep. Love Charlie.
Yeah, no, Charlie's a fun interview. Like 20 minutes in. Which that and I'm very honest. I mean, I've interviewed Charlie Cool, and I love having Charlie Cool on. It just takes like 20 minutes to get to the fun, good stuff. But it's always good to having her on. I love Mickey Knuckles though.
I only just recently met her Sunday. Super fun person. She's funny, very funny.
She's great. She's great. I like the fact that Mickey Knuckles does not give two fucks
about anything.
It's great. Like she's like, my shirt has blood on it. Fuck it, I'll take it off and I'll wrestle in my bra. I don't give a shit.
She don't care about nothing.
I think, and like I like the fact that like she sells her blood-soaked bra like after like a match. Oh, it's brilliant. It's epic. Yeah. I love the fact that I think what was it? Her and Tremont faced the Kirks in a match.
Yeah, I think so.
That was crazy because I like Casey Cattell. She's great.
Oh yeah.
I also respect the fuck out of Brandon Kirk. That guy is so good.
Very yes.
Mavericks fan. It's his only fault. I right now have an issue with Mark Cuban, so it's all right.
Okay.
After Mark Cuban promoted Voyager and that cryptocurrency company's like bankrupt and they legitimately screwed so many people out of money through their bankruptcy, and he's like, I'm all for Voyager. I can't really support Mark Cuban right now.
Yeah. It's understandable though.
It's okay though. I live in the tri-state area, so I'm required to be a Knicks fan anyhow or a Nets fan, so it's all right. When we beat the Mavs, it'll be fine.
Yes. Everything will be forgiven.
But yeah, no. Because obviously the reason why I bring up Billy Starks to get back is that you're part of Big Starks brand and
newest member.
And what is that like? Because that's a big family now.
It really is. And I don't know if you saw the back and forth when I announced it, but some people didn't take too kindly to me joining, which, okay, I guess. But yeah, I was talking to Mouse about a year ago, and he said I asked him that I told him I was interested in joining. He said, keep grinding, kid. Just know we are always watching. The only thing I can do from that point is keep doing what I'm doing. And we were up in Chicago. Billy was making her debut for AAW. I was making my main roster debut for AAW. I got completely squashed in like 2.5 minutes. We're not going to talk about it. And then after the match, Mouse told me that I apparently did enough over the last year to finally get in.
And so obviously, you know, it's kind of a cool thing. It's a big thing, and they definitely represent a lot of people.
Yes, a lot, from TV talent to nobodies like me,
and everybody in between.
Everybody in between.
And so obviously, though, I mean, all jokes aside, and that realm, even just being near Mouse, being near Billy. Because it is really clear at this point that Billy Starks is either going to become the queen of the indies if she so chooses to go down that path, or she's going to be picked up by a WWE or an AEW, or potentially be offered, you know, a 6-month tour in Japan at some point in the near future. I don't think college is necessarily her next step, not because she can't go, but because she's going to be offered something very, very interesting in the wrestling world, I feel.
Yeah. If I will be shocked if she doesn't get offered something in December or January, because I think her birthday is in December. So I will be very, very shocked if something doesn't come up by then.
It reminds me, I probably should hit her up and be like, hey, look, I know you're going to get signed soon. I want one more interview. just before I have to go buy WWE. You know, I just interview you. It'll be really funny if I buy that company. Just saying, you heard it here first. I might buy the entire company if they sign Billie Starkz, just so I can interview her for a fourth time. Just saying.
Yeah, Billie's great. Even though she's younger than me, she's been in the business. We've been in the business about the same amount of time, but she's really treated me. She treats everyone. I've never heard a bad thing about her, and she treats everyone with like respect and as a friend. And like she does get these things where she's like in her own bubble, but like everyone goes through that where they're like, "Hey, let me just have my personal space." But honestly, she's been super cool with me. Mouse has been super cool with me. Except for fun story. We were at a show. I think it was either this past weekend or the weekend before, where I got there early for a seminar, and then Billie and Mouse come in. Mouse told me that since I'm the newest member of the Big Starkz brand, the first step in initiation is I have to move my car and give him my parking spot because he had to park too far away. So Mouse is kind of a bully. And then obviously you have Bully Starkz on the other hand, but no, they've treated me really well. Mouse and Billie both invited me to go to Mall of America with them. So like they are very, very welcoming.
Yeah, no. I had 2 interviews with Billie. She's great. She's fantastic. And the second interview was better, but that's usually how it is because once you know somebody, it's easier to do a follow-up interview.
Right.
And she's just great. She's absolutely wonderful. And yeah, so that's kind of the cool thing. And then people are really pissed off that I got to interview Billie Starkz twice because at this point, and people are angry that she follows me on Twitter. But again, what people don't understand is that this is 10 years in the making. This didn't just happen. This is 10 years in the making of me getting to where I'm at. Where I'm not, and I'm just getting good. I'm not even good yet. I'm just starting to get good. But I do want to back out of wrestling, and I want to talk more, I guess, bird's eye view. I mean, where do you think wrestling is going? Because obviously, COVID has changed the landscape dramatically, and obviously, we have Vince retiring. My thoughts on it is I think it's good. I think new blood is good. I think WWE is not going to be sold to Disney anytime soon. I know the people who own Disney stock are very upset with that statement. It's all right, guys. Disney has a lot of things. They have Star Wars. They can't have John Cena too. We have to draw the line somewhere, guys. I'm just saying. We'll give them Seth Rollins in Star Wars 10. No, we'll give them that. I mean, they have Sasha Banks.
Yeah, they got Sasha already. They don't need no one else. That's a big enough star right there.
So, but all jokes aside, where do you think wrestling's going? Because it's been through a very interesting evolution in the last 2 to 3 years.
So, wrestling, I will say this, even though I'm a wrestler, as a wrestling fan, the entire landscape of professional wrestling is so exciting right now. Because, like I said, as much as I love Vince for the childhood he gave me and giving me the business that I fell in love with, him retiring brings a whole new flavor. And if you go back and watch the Black and Gold NXT with Triple H in charge and watch any of the stuff Paul Heyman has ever done, I'm excited to see where WWE goes from here because I can only see them going up. I'm excited to see how AEW responds. And I'm excited to see how the other two, Impact and MLW, react to this as well. And I'm also interested to see who comes back to WWE that was released by Vince.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting with Stephanie running it in a lot of ways, Paul Heyman running it, Triple H running it, Nick Khan. And look, I think WWE is going to be hiring people from the outside to take what they have to the next level, and I think that there's a lot of interesting things that can be done.
Yeah.
And I think that there's going to be a bunch of writing shifts. I think there's going to be a bunch of experimentation shifts in there. And look, I'm a shareholder and I'm stoked for it. I mean, when Vince announced his retirement, the share went up 10%, which is a big jump.
Right.
And it's come down about 2 or 3% since then, but still
up.
Still a big gain. And the target price for if anybody's into stocks and financials, they raised it to a $90 target price. So it's sitting at 68, 69 right now. So it's a very bullish company right now.
Yeah, that's up.
And
I dabble in stocks here and there too. So yeah, that it's up.
I mean, I got in at WWE at $9 a share. So
yeah, that's a good in right there.
I went in through the dog days, and I've been, and then I've doubled down, and then I tripled down, and and let's just say that in September, a lot of my bills to run this show and a variety of other stuff's off the table, which gives me the ability to go back to investing. But all things, that's a different show completely. That I may or may not run soon. But hey, my name says The Investor. It's I invest in a lot of things, everybody.
It does.
But yeah, no, I think wrestling's gonna be very good, and I think AEW has a real fight on their hands right now. I really do.
Yeah.
And I like some stuff AEW does, but I think they got a real fight on their hands. And all I can say is that I think Cody Rhodes made a really, really good move.
I agree. At the end of the day, I agree with that statement.
But again, I don't want to push too hard into wrestling. Obviously, I think you're an anime fan, so I'm curious.
I am, yes.
Obviously, I'm a big anime fan. I just had Eric Scott Kimmer on, who's in Demon Slayer. He's in a lot of stuff. He was in Excel World. He's also a wrestler. I had Megan Hollinshead on, who's the original Nurse Joy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
That's really cool.
I had the guy who plays Neji and Naruto on just recently. I had I also had the person who played Naru from Love Hina, who plays Konan from Naruto as well, Dorothy Fawn. So yeah, and Megan Hollinshead plays like Ada Wong in some Resident Evil video games. So yes. And then I've had a bunch of other people on my show. So obviously, I'm curious what you're watching and what you're not watching, and what do you think of anime collectively?
I personally love anime, man. I just recently got into mangas, which I should have started there, but I'm in it now. That's all that matters. I love My Hero Academia. It's probably my favorite right now, but that's so cliche. Death Note is what I'm currently watching. I love Death Note. The twists and turns in just 5 episodes is mind-boggling. What else? Hajime no Ippo is really, really good. The boxing anime. Rent-A-Girlfriend. Man, it's going to sound stupid, but I love Rent-A-Girlfriend, and they just come out with a couple episodes of season 2. There's Rent-A-Girlfriend, Girlfriend. Zombieland Saga is one of my favorites that they just announced a movie. So that's really cool. And there's just... I always scroll through like Crunchyroll and Funimation, and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. This looks cool. And I'm like, how am I supposed to watch all of these? I don't have time.
Oh man, I watch way too much anime right now. I'm on track to watch about 900 episodes this year.
That's a lot.
I'm watching like three a day.
Like 3 episodes or 3 series?
3 episodes a day.
3 episodes. Okay. I thought you meant you were going through 3 whole series a day.
No. 3 or 4 episodes a day. It winds up breaking down to 21 to 28. And then 28 times like 50, you're watching a lot of episodes.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know you meant episodes. Episodes wasn't bad. I thought, man, he's going to do like 900 series. That's crazy.
No. I've been a Crunchyroll member for since I was in college, paying $7 a month.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm just watching a boatload of anime. Like, it's. I probably watched like 4,500 to 5,000 episodes in the last 8
Jeez.
years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, legitimately. In my junior year, I decided not to work for an entire summer, and I decided to like chill out. And all I did was legitimately watch like 6 to 7 hours of anime, and then go to the gym at night, and it was great.
I can't think of anything better.
It was fantastic. And then I was selling stuff on eBay, and I was writing in between. And so like I had a 14-hour day, and I did like a 2-hour workout
Hmm.
4 days out of the week, 4 or 5 days out of the week. Took 2 days off, and then I watched a boatload of anime. And I laid
Hmm.
in my bed, and I read, and I was writing, and it was fantastic. I didn't
Yeah.
make much money that summer, but I had a blast.
That's all that matters. Memories.
Oh, it was fantastic. I was antisocial. It was fucking great, dude. It was great. And I mean, in the middle of COVID, that's what I did too. But I played a lot of video games. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yo, me and the North Korean, not the North Korean kids, me and the South Korean kids in Overwatch. Oh my god! You go on Discord, those people are savage. They're like, dude, just be an Orisa. You throw down your shield. We're gonna kill everybody. It was great. Like
Yeah.
they're telling you what to do, and their English is horrible. And I say this not to be offensive, but they just be like, listen, listen, you gaijin, you
Yeah.
stupid
Right.
bastard. You suck at this game, and we want to win. So we're gonna do this. And then like when I got like 4 kills, they're like, you did good, you did good. Like,
Oh
oh my god,
gosh. I
they
love
they're
Overwatch,
so
man.
proud of me, and my 4 kills with Orisa, so proud of me.
That's fair.
It's
Yeah,
so cool.
I'm a big gaming nerd too. So
My blocking levels were great. The amount of skill points, I got like 9 golden weapons in Overwatch over
jeez.
legitly like 3 months because what these South Korean kids, they're sick in Overwatch. They're
Yeah.
just sick. It's like that. Oh my god, they're just brutal. They're just brutal, and like they destroy people, and they work
Yes.
like a cohesive unit. Like moving the payload to everybody. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
It's terrifying.
That's one way to put it.
I'd rather face O'Shea in a match than they go against like
Yes.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
See, if I face O'Shea in a match, I can win. 1%
Yeah.
chance, but it's a 1% chance, right?
Oh,
Against a South Korean team in Overwatch, it's a negative 5% chance.
yeah. There's no chance there.
No, it's negative 5%, so they automatically get the win.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Easily.
But I digress. This is a far cry from wrestling. Um, I do want to give you a chance to self promote yourself. So
I don't have
where,
anything going on.
so where can people bother you on Facebook? Where can people bother you on Instagram, on
Uh,
YouTube, Twitter, TikTok? Buy your merch, Pro Wrestling Tees, all that fun stuff.
I mean, there's a little name bar under me. Yeah, that ad will take you to my Twitter. It'll take you to my Instagram. I don't really use Facebook. If you look up AJ Alexander, I might pop up. I might not. If you do, you can add me. The high possibility I won't add you back because I'm never on there. TikTok, I think, is the same at. It's also never used. Pro Wrestling Tees is linked in all of my bios. I have a sponsorship with W Energy. It is a very GMO, very healthy energy drink that I use to get from point A to point B on my road trips. Because, driving for 10 to 12 hours is not very easy, especially after a night of wrestling. I don't really have anything else going on. If you can find my Snapchat, you can add me. There's a good possibility I won't add you back because I don't like people. Um, yeah, always interact with me because I will always say something back, whether I like you or I don't like you. And there's a high possibility I won't like you. So please always say something.
Well, on that note, and I'm gonna just say this anyway because I've been saying it for a while. You have to support indie, and what that means is that if it's an indie creator, an independent wrestler, First and foremost, you should actually buy a ticket to go see them wrestling if they're in your area. You should cheer or boo them. You should interact with them because when you do go to a wrestling show and you see a wrestler, you're not only supporting that wrestler, you're supporting all the other wrestlers, you're supporting the venue, you're supporting the show. Furthermore, if you do like a wrestler for whatever reason, if you like bad guys, the good guys, indifferential to any of that, you just think somebody's funny or you like their shirt, you should go buy their T-shirt because that does subsidize their income and it does go a long way and it does make a big difference and it really is helpful in that regard. Also, if money's tight for whatever reason, and you're like, hey, look, money's tight, or you bought somebody all their shirts and you're like, well, I haven't even worn half of them yet, and you don't feel like buying another one. At that point, you should follow people on Twitter, follow them on Instagram, follow them on any platforms they're on, and actually like their pictures on Instagram, like their tweets. If they're wrestling live or a show is premiering, you could tweet about it. And you can be like, oh, this is awesome, or that was a crazy move, and interact with somebody. Or if you like what they're doing, you can be like, hey, just saw your match was awesome. Everybody go check it out because that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And social media is free. It's not costing you a dime to do that. And it does make a difference. And you might be like, oh, but Andrew, that doesn't help in any which way. You'd be surprised. If a bunch of people retweet an interview that I do and 100 people retweet this interview when I put it out on Twitter, guess what happens? That means 100 plus people could potentially see it. And then maybe 10 of those people say, hey, look, let me subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me subscribe to the Facebook channel. And then they are more privileged and more privy to seeing the next interview.
Yes.
And then obviously if you have sponsors, they want to see that, promoters want to see that, and other people want to see it. So it does make a huge difference when you actually engage with people.
Mm-hmm. And another thing is if you are so pro WWE or pro AEW, know that 95% of everyone came from the indies. An independent ticket ranges anywhere from $5 to $20 for general admission. If it at most it's $20 out of your pocket, show up. If you like it, cool. Now you have something else local to you that you can come and watch live, and you might see a superstar of tomorrow. Or worst case scenario, you go and you don't like what you see, and cool, you're out $20. And now you experienced it firsthand and you know you don't like it.
Yeah, and you know what it is, and I'll say this as well, that sometimes also, you know what it is, you'll go to a show and it's just not your cup of tea. I've been to a few wrestling shows and you're like, look, this is just not my cup of tea, and you don't want to go back. And then I've been to a bunch of stuff that I'm like, oh, it's the same promotion, but it was just, for whatever reason, that was just a weird talent.
Yeah.
I'll give an example where my first Nova show was okay. My second one was Ladies Night, and I could tell you who was on that card. There's Stratolander, Shotzi, Penelope Ford, Leva Bates, Casey Cattell was there, Vanity was there, and then there was like 3 or 4 other people. Vita Scott was there, and a lot of, I think there was like 2, Kimberly was there, and Faye Jackson was there. So I mean that's a powerhouse of women's wrestling. And so maybe your first experience, like mine was at Nova, was okay. The second experience was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing too, is that also sometimes happens where a show could just be an okay show, but I recommend people give at least it a second shot.
Yeah.
Especially if it's $20 or $30. That the Nova tickets were $25 for a front row.
Yeah.
So there you go, and it was a great time. So Tara Calloway was there too. So obviously, I just mentioned probably at least 8 out of the 10 women you should know in wrestling.
Yeah.
If you're a wrestling fan, and if you don't know, look up all 10 of those women, and it'll be great. But I'm going to promote my stuff because I might as well. I am independent, so I appreciate when people buy my T-shirt. Everybody. Again, it's Redbubble. If you're an anime fan, it's making fun of Gundam. Taco Bell, most interesting man in the world. It's making fun of Fallout and a lot of stuff. I don't always eat tacos, but when I do, it's at Lando Bell. I'm a huge Gundam fan. I love Char's Counterattack. It's referencing that. Also, I have Buy Me a Coffee. If you would like to financially support this show or want to advertise on this show or want to buy the backdrop of this show, because my friend hasn't paid me enough money, even though I love his book, The Raxon Universe, and everything he does. If you would like to put your stuff on this wall, it follows the show wherever it goes. And when it does get cut up into micro content, the background does stay. So keep that in mind. Also, all my live reads, they stay. So if you're interested in that, feel free to hit me up on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm not that expensive. And this show is coming into podcast format, and that whole thing does do well. It's fusing with my other show called Pop Anime Comics Lounge, and that fusion will take place probably in about 8 to 12 months. And when that fusion is completely done, there's going to be like 600 episodes of content all at everybody's disposal. So keep that in mind. And so this is the time, because when that happens, our rates are going from $10 to like $25 for a live read. And I'm worth it, as Fifth Harmony would say. So yes. I listen to Fifth Harmony.
That's fair.
Out of the bag. I love that song. But I digress again. But seriously, support indie. And finally, all I'm going to say before I'm going to give you the final word is, if you can't support me economically, share the interview out. It means a lot to me. It goes a long way. You know, when somebody shares this out, shares it into a group, retweets it, tags me on Instagram, goes a huge way, because that means that somebody else can be introduced to this show. And a listen to me is just as valuable as money. So that's something. And subscribing on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter means so much to me, because that means you're more likely to listen to the next one, and you never know what you're going to find on my show. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to keep talking, and so I'm going to give you the final word.
Me, the final word? Oh boy, I wasn't ready for this. You caught me off guard. Really, it comes down to just making the world a better place. Let's all love each other. Let's all stop hating. There's no reason to hate. If you see something and you don't like it, move on. It goes back to what your mother used to teach you. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. Just be nice. Love everyone. Be kind. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. Black, white, gay, trans, straight. It doesn't matter. We are all human beings. Let's please just make the world a better place and stop hating.
Yeah, I don't think I could top that message. So everybody, that is a wrap.